answer at the end. If you have any questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to put those in chat and we will read them out loud and get to you right away.
So who are we? We are the Better Together Bott & Gaither real estate team. I'm Nathan Gaither.
I'm Jackie Bott.
We specialize in multi-generational home sales, but we work all over California with all types of clients. Together, we have over 20 years experience in the mortgage and real estate industry, and we have both been Tri-Valley residents and volunteers since 1999.
And as a first-time home buyer, you might be feeling maybe a little bit stressed out or anxious or uncertain. And we hope that by the end of this presentation, you'll have a much different feel for the process.
Mm-hmm. And you're not alone. We've helped plenty of first-time home buyers out in the past. For example, this is Mike Lochner. We helped him buy out in Rio Vista. And it was his first time buying a home, but he was actually also over 55. So we helped him in a 55 and over neighborhood, and we helped him achieve his dream of home ownership.
And then we have Leslie Letterman, and she's what we call a forever client. So we've helped her with a lot of different transactions. This particular one, she was relocating her parents to Palm Desert, and we were able to get them situated in a fantastic neighborhood, gated community, and we'd love to have them as forever clients for all their transactions.
We also help real estate investors. We help clients of all different experience levels. For example, we helped Nikki here. He had a 1031 exchange that he had to do where he had an investment property in New York and he wanted to transfer the proceeds of that sale over to Arizona and avoid having to pay taxes on gaining it. So that's why he did the 1031 exchange. And that's just a really great example of how we can help people, whether it's you or someone you know, all across the US. We'd be happy to be a resource for you guys.
Before we get into the top mistakes to avoid, we wanted to go over the step-by-step process from mortgage through getting keys. So as you're going through this process, the best thing to start out with is assess your finances. What's your down payment look like, your credit score, all that kind of thing. Then we would go to the next step of getting pre-approved for a mortgage. So I'm going to kind of just run through these fast because we'll go in more detail. Then the next step would be finding a real estate agent to help you, and you found us. So thank you for coming today. Then once you are all pre-approved, then we would know your budget and we would begin the home search. So we'd identify that criteria of like what cities and all that, and make sure that we get all the specifics of your requirements. We would view the homes, evaluate the choices, discuss the best terms, write offer, get submit it with the pre-approval and the funds and all the signed reports.
Next, the contingency period would begin, where we review all sorts of inspections and documentation. After that, we would be after all those contingencies cleared would be the final signing with the escrow company, and then you're clear to close. That's when funding would happen. The seller would get their proceeds, ownership would transfer to you, and it's time to move in.
So to assess your finances, the best place to start is to determine all your factors such as income, your savings, your credit scores, and that'll really help decide how much of a down payment. There's a lot of different loan programs available. So a lot of times there's a misconception that you need 20% down, and that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of programs out there that you can put as low as 3% down. And then we would send you to one of our trustee. If you don't have one, we have a vendor network that we work with, and we have a couple of lenders on there that we have a lot of respect for, that know a lot about first-time home buyers and have the time and patience to walk through the steps and explain things to you and kind of give you guidance throughout the process. So then you would go to them and get pre-approved. Then, like I said, that would establish your budget and kind of give us an idea, because the worst thing that can happen is you go out looking for a home that exceeds your budget and you fall in love with it.
Mm-hmm. Next would be finding a real estate agent. Like we said, you've started to take the first steps, and hopefully you enjoy us in our presentation. We'd be happy to be resources for you in the future. After that, you would begin your home search with us. You'd work with your real estate agent to identify homes that meet your needs and criteria. Then you would visit properties and consider things like their location, what school district they're in, the size of the home itself and the greater lot that it's on, what amenities it might have if it's a condo, and price as well. And then once you find the right home, we'd start to walk you through how to properly prepare and submit an offer. We'd also help you during the offer, negotiate with the seller and the other real estate agent until both parties agree on terms and price that make everyone happy. After that, we'd enter what's called the contingency period, or it's also known as investigation period. This is where we'd open escrow, and that's when you transfer that earnest money deposit, that first usually about 3%, just to show that you're serious about the deal and that you really want the home. After that, you have about 17 days, and you're going to order any inspections you need, as well as review all the documentation that you have and all the disclosures provided by the seller. This is the period to ensure that you know what condition the property is in and what sort of title you're inheriting when you're purchasing the property, and it'll make sure that you know you want to move forward with the transaction or back out, so that way you can save that earnest money deposit if it's anything is not within your requirements.
And then once all that period is over and the appraisal has been done, then the loan will be fully underwritten and processed. And once they give their blessing, then it will go into escrow to draw documents, and you'll be clear to close. The closing period with the escrow, you will go in and sign all the legal documents and all the transfer of ownership documents. Once that is all signed, usually within the next 24 hours, the recording will happen, and that's when you get the keys and you become the owner of your new home. So that's the happy key day.
For those who entered in late, I do want to remind you guys, we do have a Q&A at the end where you'll be able to unmute and ask your questions. But if you have any questions as we're going along, feel free to type them in the chat. I'm sure others have the same question as you, and we'd be happy to answer it as we're going or answer any of your questions live at the end of the presentation.
And we always find that everyone learns from everybody else's questions. So please don't hesitate. If there's something for going too fast, or if there's something you want to dive deeper on, we're happy to slow down and help you out.
Yeah. And now that you know the general overarching process of what it takes to buy a home, we want to go over the common mistakes that most people make when buying a home. And there are these 7 mistakes that we'll go into detail later. Ignoring first-time homebuyer incentive programs, not getting pre-approved before you search, using your bank for your mortgage, your personal bank, buying directly from a builder if you're looking at new homes. Number 5, skipping home inspections or dropping contingencies. 6, skimming condo or HOA documents. And lastly, number 7, not working with the right real estate agent.
So the first mistake is ignoring the first-time homebuyer incentive programs. So before we get into all the incentive programs, we want you to understand what types of mortgages there are. So there's a conventional mortgage, and that is organized with Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, and that has as low as a 3% down payment option with a 620 credit score. And then there's what's called an FHA loan. This is a government-backed loan by the Federal Housing Administration. And that has about a 3.5% down payment requirement. And the credit scores can go down to 580, but then they typically want to see a little bit more down if you go with that low of a credit. And then there's what's called a VA loan, or a Veterans Administration loan. So if we have any veterans, thank you for your service. And this is one of the very many benefits that you get for that time served. So what that is the VA has a 0 down payment option with a credit score of 620. So these are arguably one of the best mortgages available to you. So if you're eligible, I would recommend going that route. There's also a USDA loan. These are for low to moderate income people in rural areas. They're not really common here in the Bay Area, but there are pockets where that is a possibility. And then the final kind is a Cal HFA mortgage program. So you might have heard a few months back that Cal FHA did a large push on home ownership in the winter, and they were offering a whole bunch of funds available. So that's a special program that's kind of a hybrid program between conventional and FHA loans and the state of California, where the state of California will help you with down payment assistance programs. And typically how that works is it's forgiven 20% each year over 5 years, as long as you're making all of your timely payments. So as long as you stay in that house for 5 years and make all of your payments on time, that full down payment assistance is kind of waived or granted to you. So that can be a nice option when those funds are available.
Absolutely. And we like to steer our first-time home buyers towards FHA loans, because we found that they're one of the best options for people with not as large of down payments. You can go as low as 3.5% down with a more reasonable credit score limit than compared to a conventional loan. It's a 580, and you can go as low as a 500 credit score if you have 10% to put down. It's also really good, really easy to refinance with FHA Streamline. The process makes it really simple because for a conventional, for example, once you hit that 20% down payment threshold, you no longer have to pay mortgage insurance. That is not the case with FHA. So a lot of people, once they hit that 20%, use the FHA Streamline to refinance into a regular conventional loan. There's also low mortgage rates available for FHA, and they have a higher DTI ratio compared to conventional, 50% versus 43%. And DTI is debt to income ratio. So basically what it's going to compare is how much income you're taking in each month versus your obligations that you have to pay each month. And so it's just a little bit more flexible. You can also choose between 15 or 30-year, it can be fixed rate or adjustable terms in terms of your mortgage. And they allow down payment assistance programs and grants. They also allow that the seller can pay up to 6% of your closing costs. Now, with such limited inventory, that's not the case, as much the case right now, but it really depends on where you're searching and the needs of the seller.
And what is a first-time homebuyer grant? So those can be specific to your region. They can be dependent on your income, and they sometimes are forgivable, like I talked about before with the Cal HFA, and there are down payment assistance programs. So there's a lot of programs out there for civil servants, like teachers and firemen and police officers. So a lot of cities really want to make sure that all of those individuals are not only working in their community, but they're also able to afford to live in the community. So we can always schedule a consultation, find out where you're looking to buy, and research that city and see if there's a grant opportunity available for you.
Mistake number 2 of 7, not getting a pre-approval before you start searching for a home. Now, there's 3 main pillars when we're talking about pre-approval of mortgage that they're going to want to see, and that is credit, income, and source for your down payment.
So the pre-approval helps you identify how much you can afford to spend based on your credit, your income, and your assets. The pre-approval determines what you qualify for. It increases your bargaining power when you're negotiating with a seller. So these days, there's such limited inventory on the market. Most sellers won't even look at your offer unless you have a pre-approval letter already included with it. It'll estimate your monthly payment and your total investment. So not just your down payment, but all your closing costs. So it's that tool to say, am I ready? Can I do this? Do I have enough saved? And it'll identify which loan products best meet your needs, because there are so many different types of loans out there within each one of those categories that we talked about earlier. There's probably 10 different loan programs. So we really need to work with a professional and make sure that you're getting the right loan for the right situation for you with the best interest rate as possible.
And just for those of you that don't fully understand credit scores, or if you just want a refresher, generally they're looking for something like fair to excellent range. So that's 660 and up. And the main factors that impact your credit scores, number one is definitely going to be payment history, whether or not you've failed to make a payment at some point in time. After that, it's going to be amount owed. And the way they do that is how much of your total credit allowance are you actually using? And after that is going to be length of credit history, which is harder to control, obviously, but it's something they're going to look at.
Then they're going to look at your proof of income. Most programs require about a 2 years proof of income, and typically they want to see 2 months of pay stubs and 2 years of W-2s. However, if you're a recent grad student, or if you've been working in the same job for, say, 18 months, but it's salary, they'll typically overlook that 2-year requirement as long as they can show that you've had consistent income since, that 18 months.
Yeah, we've spoken with a lot of buyers and helped them get pre-approved when they hear that 2 years and they're like, oh, I have to wait. I just joined my job 1 year and 6 months ago. I can't do it. But that's really more towards like people who own their own businesses or people who are independent contractors. There are some exceptions and some wiggle room that can be made otherwise. So what can and can't you use when it comes to your down payment and your closing costs? You can absolutely use money from a 401k or other retirement accounts. You can use gifts, but they must be seasoned, and I'll get more into that later. And you can use proceeds from your stocks or your bonds or cash that you may have. What you can't do is use a personal loan, no matter how much your uncle or aunt may be willing to help you out, or that loan shark down the street. It is never a good idea to use personal loans that can't be tracked and provable that it's your own income. They will flag that and you will not be able to get pre-approved necessarily. You also can't use credit cards for any of your closing costs. So a lot of people save up that 20%, but then the extra 3 to 9% closing costs, that might blindside them a little bit. And you definitely can't use undocumented cash. And that's where I'll go back to seasons. So what we mean by season gifts is they're going to want to see that money in your account for at least 3 months before you apply. So if you are planning on getting some big gift from a family member, you want to make sure it's trackable and it's seasoned. And that's the same with selling off any stocks or bonds or anything. They want to see the paper trail. They want to know that you're getting income from a legitimate source.
And tips for a simple loan approval, there's definitely some do's and don'ts that you want to pay attention to. So basically, once you've applied for that mortgage, until you have the keys in your hand, you don't want to make any significant changes. You don't want to make changes to your job. You don't want to make changes to your credit profile. This is not the time to go buy that Tesla, even if Elon Musk takes another price cut on it. Now is not the time. You really want to just show stability, and whatever they had evaluated you on in the beginning, you want that to be the same way when you're closing, because they will do a last minute check to make sure that you still have the same job. They'll ask you for a most recent bank statement. So you just want to show consistency. It's also not the time to do any kind of consolidating all of your debts, because then they're still going to hit you for that initial debt. So this is not the time to combine cards and pay them all off or do any of that as well. So consistency is really the key.
Absolutely. And then I want to talk really quick about the two different kinds of getting pre-approved. So a lot of people think that pre-qualification is the same thing as being pre-approved. And most people try and do just pre-qualification because there's no hard credit pull. But in fact, that's only using stated income. And that makes most offers to purchase a home pretty weak, because the seller and the selling agent know that you don't really know exactly how much you're going to be paying, because it's roughly estimated, and that you haven't actually been fully reviewed, that it's all just stated. So you're telling loan officer how much you make and what your credit score is, and they're guesstimating basically how much they think you can afford. Whereas a pre-approval, you're actually going to be fully underwritten. They're going to do a hard pull on your credit. They're going to review your income. They're going to ask for receipts, those W-2s, those pay stubs. And it shows that you're a lot more reliable of a buyer. And that makes your offer a lot stronger when going to bid on that dream house of yours. It also lets you know the maximum you qualify for, so you're not searching for homes outside of your budget, and lets you know what your monthly payment is going to look like at each bracket. So that way you have more information to make your decision on.
So what is in all your mortgage payments? So you'll hear often when you're working with loan professionals is PITI. So what is that? That is your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So that is the primary bulk of your mortgage payment are those things. But then you could also have additional things. If you put less than 20% down, you'll also have mortgage insurance. And then if you buy a condominium or in a planned unit development, you'll have homeowners association fees. Another key tip is if you pay 20% over time, if you pay an extra payment per year, your loan will pay off in roughly 21 years instead of 30. So these are all included in your payment, but I always recommend take one payment, divide it by 12, add that to your monthly payments so that you pay that principal down even faster because it saves you a ton of money on interest.
And if you want to know more precisely based on your situation, what your monthly payment may look like, or how much cash you're going to bring to close when it comes to all the closing costs associated, as well as that down payment, we'd be happy to go into detail with you. And we can go over your specific situation if you just book an appointment with us, and we'll provide that link later on.
So mistake number 3 is using your current bank. So the benefits of working with a lender and not a bank is pretty simple. So your bank, most banks are such that they're so large that you're just really a number. And what they're really doing is looking for the best borrowers ever. So they're looking for people with the highest bank balances, the best credit scores. And if you don't fall into this very top criteria of a buyer, then they're going to be way more expensive than most lenders will be. So they really cater to their top echelon of their bank customers, and they will not allow for any down payment assistance programs because their guidelines are very, very strict and tight. So they're not very flexible to work with.
That's why it's really important that you find a mortgage lender that you know and trust, and that you feel comfortable working with. We have plenty of resources in that field if you need us to connect you with someone, because yeah, she was saying, there's a big difference between mortgage lenders and those banks. Banks only pull an offer for you once, whereas mortgage lenders can take your information and shop you around to a bunch of different mortgage providers and make sure you get the best.
And that's all with one credit pull too. So you're not having to go apply at all the different places.
Yeah. And 0.25%, 0.5% interest rate doesn't sound like a big deal, but if that mortgage lender can save you that over the 30-year lifetime of your loan, they could potentially end up saving you $36,000 to $72,000. Now, this example we have below is based on a home that's $750,000 with a 20% down payment, but it is pretty impressive how much money adds up over time with just that 0.25% of an interest rate increase.
The other mistake is buying direct from a builder without representation. So the truth about buying direct from a builder is that sometimes they will offer closing cost assistance, but then they'll give you higher interest rates. So in the end, you're paying more money. The realtors are advocates for you, and a sales agent works for the builder. So as you can imagine, that mindset of who are they going to please? Are you going to please your boss or this person that you're doing just one transaction with? So that makes a big difference. And realtors are there and have a fiduciary responsibility to you. So they're going to come in, represent you. You will still be offered typically even more concessions because the realtor kind of knows the lingo and knows what questions to ask and how to kind of drive towards that end game. And they are knowledgeable about the contracts, the inspections, and the final walkthroughs. If you walk through just with the builder, it's amazing the kinds of things that they can sweep under the rug just to save a dollar.
Yeah, we'll make sure to break out that blue tape and mark everything down, because usually a year after you own a new build, they'll make sure to fix anything that's left over, but then after that, you're paying for it. So buying directly from a builder could cost you anywhere from $5,000 to $40,000 on average. Mistake number 5 is skipping your home inspection. So when you purchase a home, you go through the investigation period, and a lot of times we either save money and try and skip the home inspection, or feel like they need to drop their inspection contingencies. And when you do that, you're really unaware of what the deal breakers are in the house. And because you dropped your contingency, you lose a lot of negotiating power, because if you had that in place and something comes up on the inspection, then you can start to renegotiate with the seller on price, maybe have them do the repairs or just price in the repairs to what your offer used to be. And that way you still have that power in the transaction. You also risk inheriting non-structural safety issues such as mold, radon, or lead. The house might look gorgeous and might be freshly painted, but underneath that fresh paint, if it's old paint, that still can pose a serious health risk to you and your family. You also miss having a future forecast. So even if you go in knowing that, oh, I'm not going to negotiate the price any further, I love the price I got for this home, you still want to know what repairs are around the bend. And so that way you can better expect what the true cost of your home is going to be 5-10 years down the road. You're also, without a home inspection, oblivious to illegal or non-code compliant additions and remodels. This can be something as large as an addition, a full bedroom and bath, or something as small as some plumbing underneath the sink. So it's good to catch those sort of things.
Yeah, the cost of skipping a home inspection can really range from $5,000 to $50,000 or anywhere in between. Yeah, it depends on, is the roof secure? Does it need to be replaced within the next couple of years? You get a foundation report. So really knowing those things going into the transaction gives you leverage against that seller and make sure that you know what you're getting into.
Mistake number 6, skipping the condo or HOA documentation review.
So this will be sure that you know what the covenants, codes, and restrictions are for the neighborhood. It could result in future fines if you aren't aware of those restrictions. And it might have an inability to do any upgrades that you would plan to add any value to your home. It will uncover any hidden fines, fees, or government assessments. So this has really come up a lot in the last few years, because I don't know if you remember a news story a few years back that was in Berkeley that these international students were standing out on a patio and the whole thing collapsed. Well, since then, all of Alameda County has had to go through and kind of retrofit and check on all multifamily units to make sure that any walkways, stairways, any patios are really secured. And how that typically happened is that homeowners association paid for it up front and put an assessment on each single unit. Well, it's come up that not all owners could afford to pay those assessments. And then when they go to sell their home, it does have to be paid out. And if you don't recognize it, then you're on the hook for paying those. And sometimes they're upwards of $35,000. So it's a big shock.
And the cost of skipping that condo or HOA document review can be wildly vary. So it could be as little as $2,000 or as much as $36,000 plus.
And then not working with the right agent.
And that would be us. Uh, so what are you looking for in an agent? You're definitely looking for experience and local expertise. You are really going to benefit from real estate is a hyper local industry, so you're going to benefit from their industry knowledge or our industry knowledge and help you make informed decisions based on the specific neighborhood that you're looking at. We also provide local market insights, so you understand what neighborhoods are looking like, whether prices are trending up or down, if now is the right time to buy, and what good pricing strategies there are when it comes to making an offer on a home or selling your home down the road. You also need someone who's a strong negotiator. You want to make sure that they maximize the value you're getting out of the home, and they can really make sure to get all the benefits that they can for you out of the home. You also want an agent that is able to provide comprehensive solutions for you. So that's we consider ourselves full service agents, which means that we really take care of everything for you. A lot of those discount agents, it may seem like you're getting a deal up front, but whether it's lack of negotiating skills or all the other small fees associated with buying a home that maybe aren't taken care of, it really pays in the long run to work with a full service agent like us. We also have a trusted network, whether that's vendors to help you fix the home once you're in it, or just agents that might have, for example, off-market opportunities where we could save you a lot of money by buying a home before it hits the open market for everyone else, where it might get bid up in price.
Or another key one is knowing a lot of the local inspectors. So even if the inspection's already been done on the home and we have a relationship with the inspector that's done it, we can give them a call and say, hey, I see this one thing on the report. How bad is it really? And get a lot more narrative from it than just the black and white that's written on the report.
Yeah, because legally they're only allowed to say so much in certain inspections, but a lot of inspectors are also actually contractors because they do a lot of work themselves. And so they may not be able to say for sure in the inspection how much something's going to cost because, you know, they're liable for it at that point. But over a phone call, they'd be happy to go more in depth with us and really explain their personal opinion on a project. It's also, lastly, it's important to have outstanding service. This means that your real estate agent is prompt in their responses, transparent when it comes to the fees that they're charging, and are really good at explaining whether it's even just different disclosures or the contract. A lot of people will hand you a piece of paper and just ask you to sign it. Not all agents will be willing to hold your hand through the entire contract and really go into detail with you and eliminate the mystery. So you want an agent who's definitely committed to your satisfaction.
So now, do you feel a little bit more excited or more confident or more informed? We hope that you got a good overview. It's a lot to pack into a pretty short amount of time. So we like to offer our services of having one-on-one consultations. So we just hope that we brought you some knowledge and value and that you are able to at least take some takeaways from this time.
Yeah. And so what happens next is you'd book a one-on-one appointment with us. That can be as simple as, hey, I'm thinking about buying in 3 years from now. We'd be happy to sit down with you over a cup of coffee and just talk about your goals. Or if you're ready to buy right now, that can be a Zoom call first thing tomorrow morning, and we can hit the ground running and start your home buying process. We really cater to anyone. We don't just want to be your agent for the transaction. We want to be your agent for life. And so that means being a resource for you, whether it's tomorrow or 10 years from now.
So we do these about once a month, and we have people that we've been working with for several months. And sometimes it's just being the accountability partner to have check-in calls every couple weeks or every month and say, hey, how's it going? How's that saving going? You're stopping the shoe addiction, right? So it's just kind of those things. So don't be afraid to reach out for us for anything that you need, and we will be there to help you through the process.
Yeah, so now is our quick Q&A time. I don't see any questions in the chat.
Want to put a link in the chat as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see any questions in the chat right now, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. You do have the ability to unmute yourself, so feel free to do that now. We'll just give a quick second before proceeding. There's the link for you guys. Doesn't seem like we have any questions. That's good. Hopefully we were thorough enough to answer most of your questions.
But if it's something that you don't want to pose to the group, be sure to click that link and we'd be happy to talk to you one-on-one about it.
Absolutely. And overall, we really want to thank you all for attending today. Again, we host these every month. So if you know anyone that is thinking about making the move and buying, we host both first-time home buyer and seller seminars. And we'd be happy to give information to anyone you know. Referrals really mean a lot to us. So make sure to keep us in mind whenever you hear someone talking about real estate, because after all, we're all better together. Thank you guys so much, and we really appreciate you all coming out.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Bye.